And me and her, like, we weren't arguing, but you know what I mean? She was just like, you need to stop doing that. And then I tried to change the subject. I go, how is school going, boys? And my sons tell me, well, we didn't have school today, technically. I'm like, well, what's going on? He said, well, there was like a school shooting drill. I never heard of this. You know what this is? They have drills that they make kids do where they practice what to do if somebody comes to shoot up their school. I'd never heard that before. I was like, what the fuck? Then I had to tell my sons the truth. I didn't want to tell them this shit. Son, listen to me. Fuck that drill. If somebody comes to your school and wants to shoot it up, I'm just gonna be honest with you. You probably gonna get shot, nigga. I'm just being real. You got a famous dad. I talk a lot of shit. They gonna be gunning for you, little buddy. Just stay low and run in a zigzag pattern and don't try to save anybody, son. Do you understand me? Why would you have kids rehearse for some shit they have no control over? All you're doing is training these kids to worry. It's the stupidest drill I've ever heard of. And while you're in there training them during these drills, well, aren't you training the shooter too? This nigga's in here listening and learning like the other kids. Sitting in the back. Where are we supposed to meet? If you're a parent, this shit is terrifying. This shit is real scary. All the parents is looking at each other crazy. Because we know as parents that one of us is raising the shooter. Just don't know which one of us it is. All we know for sure is that if you're a white parent, the chances that it's you is exponentially higher than the rest of us. Shooting up school is a white kid's game. It's fucking crazy. You know, I hated school too. It never occurred to me. Kill everybody in school? It's fucking crazy. Just do what I did, nigga. Try some things. Have you skipped school, nigga? Skip school. Take a walk and meet some other kids. Fuck school, nigga. Try drugs. Have you tried drugs out, nigga? That might... Some scary shit. I've given this a lot of thought. I don't see any peaceful way to disarm America's whites. There's only one thing that's going to save this country from itself. Same thing that always saves this country from itself. And that is African Americans. Right. And I know the question that a lot of y'all have in your minds is, should we do it? Yeah, fuck yeah, we should do it. Listen, no matter what they say or how they make you feel, remember, this is your country too. It is incumbent upon us to save our country. And you know what we have to do. This is a fucking election year. We gotta be serious. Every able-bodied African American must register for a legal firearm. That's the only way they'll change the law. I hate guns, personally. I can't stand them. Yeah, but I have several. I don't want them, but I feel like I need them. Don't forget where I live. I live in Ohio. And anyone that knows anything about Ohio knows that even the word Ohio is an old Native American word. It means, literally, land of poor white people. And I don't know what's going on down here, but in my experience, poor white people love, and I mean they fucking love, heroin. They can't seem to get enough of it. I didn't even know what I was looking at first. I was just driving like, why are all these white people so sleepy out here? Do you think? It's really bad. As a matter of fact, I was coming out of a nightclub the other night in Dayton, and I'd parked my car in the alley, and no one was out there. I didn't have no bodyguards or nothing. I was home. I figured everything was fine. And as soon as I opened my car door, all by myself, suddenly one of these heroin-addicted whites just pops out of a trash can. It scared the shit out of me. I screamed, "Ah!" And then I realized it was a woman. She was fucked up. She's like, "Hey, man. Hey, man, relax, okay? I'm sick, all right? I need some drugs, man. Please, I'll suck your dick for $5, man." I was like, ugh. 2. Obviously, I'm joking. This opioid crisis is a crisis. I see it every day. It's as bad as they say. It's ruining lives. It's destroying families. Sadly, you know what it reminds me of, seeing it? It reminds me of us. These white folks look exactly like us during the crack epidemic. You know, it's really crazy to see. And all this shit they talk about on the news about how divided the nation is, I don't believe it. I feel like nowadays we're getting a real good look at each other. It's wild because I even have insight into how the white community must have felt watching the black community go through the scourge of crack. Because I don't care either. Hang in there, whites. Just say no. What's so hard about that? Remember when y'all said that to us? But it's okay. There's no grudges. Now you finally got it right. Once it started happening to your kids, you realize it's a health crisis. These people are sick. They are not criminals. They are sick. Be that as it may, I'm armed to the teeth. First gun I bought was a 12-gauge shotgun. I didn't want the gun. Remember, though, I'd moved to a farm, and I was sitting there on the porch, and I see a white dude walking across my property, entitled, like he's supposed to be there. He had a rifle over his shoulder, too. Ain't that a bitch? I said, what the fuck is this guy doing on my property? I was mad as shit, but I was unarmed. So I ended up just waving to this motherfucker like a bitch. I was just like... And as soon as he got far enough away, I ran to my car and sped to Kmart. This is in a rural white area. And remember, I was nervous because the guy was on my property. I'm black and I was sweaty. You know what I mean? And I ran to the gun counter, black and sweaty, sweating and black. And I looked up at the nigga, I was like, I look like a slave or something. I said, I need a gun immediately, like that, just like that. The guy didn't answer, no questions. He just grabbed a 12-gauge shotgun, handed it to me. I'd never even held a gun before. I'm not a dummy. I'm like, well, I need some bullets too. And the guy reached under the counter, put 2 box shells on the counter. He said, all right, buddy, which box do you want? And I didn't know. One box had a picture of some ducks on it. The other box had a picture of some deer. I said, well, what's that box with them ducks? He said, oh, that there's birdshot. And then he goes just like this, I'm not exaggerating, he goes, that won't kill a man. He said, it'll just pepper him up nicely. I said, what the fuck? Pepper? You know what it means to pepper a motherfucker up? It means that when the shell explodes, hot BBs will shoot out of the barrel of the gun, not killing a motherfucker, but penetrating their skin and shallow flesh. Boy, that's gotta hurt. Hot BBs? Ha, ha! Remember when Dick Cheney shot a motherfucker in the face and he lived? That was birdshot. I said, well, what's that box with the deer on it? He goes, oh, that there's buckshot. That'd put a hole in the goddamn truck if you wanted to.
Everybody stop. Right now. Full stop. Whatever you were doing before you encountered this title, put it down, close it, step away from it, because I am looking at something on my screen right now that has my complete and total and utterly undivided attention, and I need to talk about it. Need to process it out loud, need to give it the time and the space and the serious engagement that it absolutely deserves. And the title says, Dave Chappelle dropping some pure gems about American women. Pure gems. Not observations, not jokes, not commentary, not takes. Gems. Pure gems. The person who titled this video looked at what Dave Chappelle had to say about American women and thought, you know what word applies here? Gems. Pure ones. The real thing. The uncut, unfiltered, straight from the source, worth more than most people realize until they actually hold one up to the light kind of gems. And I am already completely invested before I have heard a single word of what he actually says. But let me slow down. Let me take my time with this. Because this title is doing multiple things simultaneously and I want to understand every single one of them before I press play. So let's start, as we always start, with the man, Dave Chappelle. Now, I have talked about Dave Chappelle before, at length, with great enthusiasm, and I will never apologize for that because Dave Chappelle is one of those subjects that rewards every conversation you have about him. Every time you think you have said everything worth saying, something new appears, a new title, a new clip, a new moment that opens up another dimension, another way in which this man's extraordinary mind and extraordinary gift are still operating at the absolute highest level. And this title, dropping pure gems about American women, is opening up a dimension that I think is particularly rich, particularly complex, particularly worthy of the kind of careful, thorough, honest engagement that I intend to give it. Because here is the thing about Dave Chappelle talking about women, about American women specifically. This is not a simple topic. This is not a topic where you can predict in advance what he is going to say, or what angle he is going to take, or what truth he is going to hold up. Because Dave Chappelle does not have predictable angles, does not work from a predetermined political or social or cultural script. Approaches every topic, including this one, especially this one, with the same combination of observation and honesty and willingness to say the thing that is true, even when it is uncomfortable, that characterizes everything he does. And American women, as a topic, as a subject, as the specific and particular and endlessly fascinating human beings that they are, deserve exactly that kind of engagement, the real kind, the honest kind, the kind that does not flatten them into a political position or a cultural symbol or a demographic category, but that actually sees them, sees their specific, particular lived, embodied, historically situated reality, sees the complexity and the contradiction and the extraordinary and the ordinary and the things that are worth celebrating and the things that are worth questioning and the things that are worth understanding better than most of the current conversation is helping anyone understand them. And Dave Chappelle apparently has some things to say about that. Gems, pure ones. But before we get to what those gems might be, let me spend some time thinking about what it means for Dave Chappelle specifically to drop gems about American women. Because the specific combination of this man and this subject creates a very particular kind of content that is different from what most people produce on this topic. Think about the landscape of commentary on American women. Think about who is currently saying things about American women in the public conversation. On one side, you have a certain kind of commentary that is essentially celebratory, that talks about American women in terms of their strength and their resilience and their achievements and all of the ways they have broken barriers and remade institutions and shown up in contexts that were not built for them and succeeded anyway. And that commentary is real and it is important, and it honors real and important things. On the other side, you have a certain kind of commentary that is essentially critical, that talks about American women in terms of what has changed in the culture around gender and relationships, and what those changes mean, and whether they are good or bad or somewhere in between. And that commentary is also engaging with real things, even when it does so in ways that are sometimes clumsy or reductive, or coming from a place of resentment rather than genuine inquiry. And then there is a third kind of commentary, the kind that does not fit neatly into either of those camps. the kind that is interested not in celebrating or criticizing, but in understanding, in actually seeing American women, the full, complicated, historically layered, endlessly diverse reality of American women, with the kind of honest, unblinking, genuinely curious attention that produces not just a good point, but an actual insight, an actual addition to the human understanding of what it means to be an American woman in this particular moment in history. And that third kind of commentary is what Dave Chappelle produces, has always produced, about everything he talks about, and I believe deeply, completely, without reservation, that it is what he produces here too. Because here is what Dave Chappelle understands about human beings, about women specifically, but about all human beings, that a lot of other commentators do not understand. He understands that people are always both more complicated and more human than the story being told about them. That the official narrative, whatever it is, wherever it comes from, whoever is telling it, is always a reduction of something that is richer and stranger and more true than the narrative can contain. And that the job of a comedian, a real one, a great one, is to find that richer, stranger, truer thing and hold it up. Not to validate either the celebratory narrative or the critical narrative. To go underneath both of them and find what is actually there. And what is actually there, when you go underneath the narratives and look at the actual reality of American women in the actual moment they are living, is extraordinary, is fascinating, is full of the kind of truth that when properly seen and properly articulated, produces exactly the response that the title is promising. Gems. Now, let me think about what those gems might actually be. What Dave Chappelle might actually have to say about American women that rises to the level of pure gems. Because I want to engage with this seriously. Want to bring my own thinking to it before I hear his. And the first thing that comes to mind, the first territory that I think is rich enough and honest enough and true enough to produce gem-level observations, is the specific, particular, historically unprecedented position that American women occupy right now. In this exact moment, in this specific cultural and social and economic context, because American women in the 21st century are doing something that has never been done before. They are operating in a world that, within the span of a few generations, has changed more rapidly and more fundamentally in terms of its expectations and its demands and its possibilities for women than any equivalent period in human history, and they are navigating that change in real time, without a tradition to draw on that fully addresses what they are actually facing. Without the accumulated wisdom of generations of women who have dealt with exactly this configuration of freedoms and constraints and expectations and possibilities. And that navigation, the specific, daily, ongoing, enormously complex navigation of being an American woman right now, is full of the kind of material that a great comedian finds irresistible. Because it is full of contradiction, of the gap between what the culture says is possible and what the actual lived experience of navigating it feels like. Of the distance between the official story of liberation and progress and the private, interior experience of trying to actually live that story in all of its complicated, sometimes exhausting, sometimes exhilarating reality. And Dave Chappelle sees those contradictions, has always seen contradictions, has always found in the gap between what things are supposed to be and what they actually are the most fertile ground for the kind of comedy that is not just funny, but true. So when he talks about American women, I expect him to go to those contradictions, to find the specific, particular tensions that are unique to the American female experience in this moment, the tension between independence and connection, between the freedom to define yourself and the social pressure to be defined in specific ways, between the unprecedented expansion of options and the very real, very human difficulty of navigating too many options with too little guidance, between strength and vulnerability and the cultural confusion about whether these are opposites or complements or something that defies the opposition entirely. And I think, and this is the gem I am most hoping to hear, I think Dave Chappelle might have something to say about the specific way that American culture has simultaneously elevated and complicated the experience of being a woman. About the strange position that American women occupy as objects of both enormous cultural celebration and enormous cultural pressure. about the specific kind of strength that American women have developed in response to the specific demands that American life makes on them. A strength that is real and that is admirable, and that is also, and this is where it gets interesting, where the gem starts to reveal itself, a strength that has sometimes come at a cost, that the celebration of it does not always acknowledge, because here is the thing about strength. The kind that is built in response to difficulty. The kind that develops as a survival mechanism, as an adaptation to circumstances that are not easy, that are not fair, that are not always designed with your thriving in mind. That kind of strength is real, and it is valuable, and it is absolutely worth honoring. And the same strength that protects you can sometimes also isolate you. The same armor that keeps out the things that would hurt you can sometimes also keep out the things that would heal you. And knowing the difference, knowing when to hold the armor and when to set it down, is one of the most subtle, most difficult, most profoundly human challenges that anyone can face. And American women, navigating a culture that has simultaneously told them to be strong and to be vulnerable, to need no one and to be in loving connection with everyone, to be independent and to be nurturing, to be successful and to be warm. American women are navigating that challenge every single day. In a cultural context that does not always give them the space to work it out without judgment. And if Dave Chappelle talks about that, if he finds the precise, specific, compassionate, honest, funny way to articulate that particular truth, then I understand completely why someone called it pure gems. Because it would be. Because that truth, the truth about the specific complexity and the specific courage and the specific cost of being an American woman in this exact moment, that truth needs to be articulated, needs to be said in a way that people can hear, that people can receive without immediately categorizing it as either celebration or criticism, that people can hold up to the light and see from multiple angles simultaneously. And Dave Chappelle, who has always been capable of holding multiple things simultaneously, who has always found the way to honor something and question it at the same time, to celebrate something and complicate it at the same time. Dave Chappelle might be exactly the right person to articulate it. Now let me think about something else, something about the specific phrase American women, not just women, American women, and that specificity matters. Because American women are not just women in general, they are women who have been shaped by a very specific cultural context, a very specific set of historical circumstances. A very specific and very particular version of what it means to be a woman in a society that was built with certain assumptions about gender that it has been in the process of revising, incompletely, unevenly, and sometimes quite painfully, for the last several generations. And what has that revision produced? What does the American woman of this moment carry that women in other cultural contexts do not carry? What is specifically, uniquely, quintessentially American about the female experience in this country? I think part of the answer is ambition, the specific American brand of ambition, the belief that you can and should achieve, that your potential is not limited by your origin or your gender or anything else, that the horizon is genuinely open. That ambition has been extended to women in America in a way that has produced a generation of women who are more educated, more professionally accomplished, more economically independent than any previous generation. And that is real, and that is worth honoring. And I also think part of the answer is loneliness, the specific American brand of loneliness, the loneliness that comes from a culture that celebrates individual achievement above all else, that is suspicious of dependence in any form, that has systematically dismantled many of the traditional structures of community and connection that used to provide a web of support and belonging. That loneliness has also been extended to women in America in ways that are not always acknowledged alongside the celebration of achievement.